Many of you will recall former New York City Mayor Ed Koch and his little calling line, if you would, his little tagline. Wherever he would go someplace, he'd always ask the people, "How am I doing?" Well, today, with the gospel readings, kind of instruct us to ask ourselves that. How am I doing? We're getting to the end of our liturgical year. Next Sunday, we celebrate the Solemnity of Christ the King, which is the last Sunday in Ordinary Time. And we will remember next Sunday that Jesus is going to return in glory. He will have the final say. He is the King of Kings, and everyone who has ever existed will stand in judgment before him. Whether they knew who he was, worshipped him or not, every single one will receive judgment from Jesus and the recompense for their actions here on earth, good or bad. And none of us escapes it. You and I, whether it's the day we die or if we should live until the Lord returns in glory, we will all stand in judgment before him. And the Lord will ask us, well, how did you do? And throughout this liturgical year, we've been looking at all of the Lord's gifts to us, how he came to us in the flesh, how he redeemed us from our sins, and all the things he's taught us to do to try to bear fruit for him. Now, in these last Sundays of our liturgical year, the Lord is asking us to evaluate ourselves. How did you do? Did you bear fruit for me as I called you to do? We've been reflecting on what he did for us. Now is the time for us to reflect upon what we have done for him, our obligation to bear fruit before him. Did we hold up to our end of the bargain? Did we bear fruit for the Lord? And are we doing so as the Lord requires us to do? Because how we have borne fruit for the Lord is how he will judge us when we stand in judgment before him. And all of us are like the people in this parable that Jesus gave today, where he gave each of them different amounts of talents. Now, talents in this situation were actually coins, but they very easily transfer over or translate over into our word, our use of talents, meaning gifts and abilities. And notice the people in the parable that the master gave them different amounts of talents, each according to his ability. So some who had greater ability received more, and more would be expected of them. Those who didn't have as much ability were given less. But everybody, every one of us has received some gifts from the Lord, some way to serve him. Nobody has every talent imaginable, every gift that we could possibly have. But we all have something, the unique gift that makes us the people that we are. And the question to ask ourselves now is, do we know what that gift is? And are we using it to bear fruit for the Lord? And sadly, over the years, I've worked with many young people who had showed so much promise, so much talent for one thing or another that they could have used, whether it was for their occupation, their vocation, or just to serve God and bring people to him. And sadly, as adults, as I see them now many years after I taught them, it's sad to see how they've squandered everything. They just never did anything with the talent. Like the third man in the parable, they went and buried it in the ground and dug a hole for it. And what a shame to see people who had so much ability, who could have done so much with that talent and did nothing with it. And right away when we talk of that, we normally think of using that for God in certainly our liturgical setting. So reminding people, if you have the ability to sing and like to sing, even just a little bit, come and join the choir. If you're a good public speaker, come and volunteer to be a lector. We've always talked about things in that manner. But it's far more than that. The Lord is not only talking about what we do here at Mass, but what we do in our daily lives. Whether it is using our talents for our vocation. Many of you who are younger may still be looking to find out, what is God calling me to do in my life? Well, look right away at the things you do well. What do you think are your unique gifts? And is there a way you can use those as an occupation and to be able to serve God and even raise money for your family that you will have down the line? So think about it and pray about it that way. Asking God, how can I serve you, Lord, with the talents and gifts that you have given me? And then even for those of us who have already found our life's vocation and our journey, how do we deal with it on the daily grind, if you will, the everyday events that take place? Sometimes there are moments that we know we can even pray beforehand and say, Lord, this is a diamond moment. This is a moment where I can really shine for you. Help me to really God, do what you want me to do. But so often we can make such a difference in the ordinary, everyday things we do, in the chores around the house that we do, just doing them to the best of our ability to be pleasing to God. Or maybe when you go to work, there's somebody maybe who's a little difficult, who's confrontational, and kind of destroys the peace of the workplace. And maybe praying and saying, Lord, is there something I can do maybe to heal this here, to kind of bring that person away from their confrontational approach and maybe help them to fit in a little better. I'm praying about that. We all have, I'm sure, relatives that are like that. Maybe somebody who's hypersensitive, and we say, Lord, is there something I can say or do to help that person not be upset at every little thing that someone may say or do, to not exaggerate it, whatever it may be. Asking the Lord in our lives to use us to do his will each and every day. And if we look again at the three men who received the coins, the talents, in the gospel parable, maybe the first one and the second one realized they were given a lot, and so they knew they had a lot and then went out to do something with it. The third one only received 1 talent, and perhaps he didn't feel he had much. Oh, what is this? This is not much. It's not going to amount to anything. And so he went off and buried it. I've often felt in reading this parable that if this man had come to the Lord and said, Lord, you gave me 1 talent, I went and invested it, but unfortunately what I thought was a wise investment didn't work out, and I'm sorry, but I lost it. I've often felt that the master in the parable would have said, well, at least you tried. At least you invested the talent. And the Lord would say that to us. We might go out and try to be very successful for him, and maybe we could be like some of the great saints, like St. Francis Xavier, whom they say baptized over 300,000 people. Maybe we could be somebody like that. But for many of us, chances are that's not going to happen. And maybe we're only going to make the difference in the lives of just a few people around us. Maybe it doesn't seem like we have that ability to go out and do great things on a grand scale. But the Lord doesn't ask us to do that. He only asks us to use whatever he's given us to the best of our ability. As St. Mother Teresa of Calcutta had said, the Lord does not ask us always to be successful. He only asks that we be faithful. And if we try each and every day, even if we find our results were meager, like St. Peter Chanel, who could have been very discouraged because he went to preaching to so many people and had very few converts, nevertheless, he was a saint because he remained faithful to the Lord. And that's all he asks us to do. To give God, again, as Mother Teresa had said, to give God permission every day to use us and whatever gifts and talents we have, as humble as they may be, as simple as we may think they are, to give the Lord permission every morning as we rise from the bed and say, Lord, I give you permission today to use me to reach whatever people I'm going to meet. Whether it's only one person whose path I will cross or many others, help me to be your presence. Help me to use whatever those unique gifts are that you have given me to serve you well. And if we can do that each and every day, whether we've touched the lives of many people, or even if when we die there would be only one person on the face of the earth who would be able to say, my life is closer to the Lord, I grew closer to him because he or she made a difference in my life, because they used their gift wisely, then we will hear the Lord say to us, well done, brave and faithful servant. Since you have been faithful in the things that have been entrusted to you, now I will give you more. Come, share your master's joy. May Jesus Christ be praised, now and forever.